Hello friends, welcome to the Ring Rumble. Anne Elisabeth Hagen, knowledge all you need. Among the more perplexing real crime instances from recent memory is this one. Full with intrigue, dishonesty, and a contemporary twist, cryptocurrencies, this narrative seems right out of an Agatha Christie book. Here is a closer examination at the terrifying disappearance of Anne Elisabeth Hagen. 1969 saw Anne Elisabeth married to Tom Hagen. Tom first entered property development, then co-founded an energy company. Ranked the 172nd richest person in Norway, he was one of the wealthiest people in the nation by the time the incident occurred. Originally employed in a nursing home, Anne Elisabeth later helped Tom in his office as a secretary and ran the workplace cafeteria. On the morning of October 31, 2018, Anne Elisabeth made a phone call to her son at 9:14 a.m. That was the last time anyone heard from her. She vanished without a trace. Tom reported that she had been abducted to the police at 2:08 p.m. the same day. He says he returned home from work and received a ransom note. The memo, asking €9 million to be paid in the cryptocurrency Monero, was loaded with threats and comprehensive instructions for how to interact with the abductors via encoded Bitcoin messaging. It appeared to be written by someone whose first tongue wasn't Norwegian, or so it seemed. Despite the clear caution not to involve authorities, Tom called the police. He instructed them to arrive in plain clothes, but instead, two uniformed officers met him at a nearby gas station. The police determined that Anne Elisabeth likely disappeared between 9:15 and 9:48 a.m. at the couple's house. Evidence at the location included zip ties and a footprint from a Spruck's shoe, indicating an abduction. Linguistic experts later reviewed the ransom note and found that it was likely authored by native Norwegian speakers who purposefully utilized broken language to mislead investigators. During the early weeks of the investigation, Tom maintained going to work and allegedly stayed to himself. To ensure secrecy, neighbors and even some family members were told Annie was gone. It wasn't until 10 weeks later that the public learnt about the case during a police press conference. Around that time, the police published security footage showing a man walking near Tom's office early on the morning of Anne Elisabeth's abduction. The man switched direction and walked back the way he came. 24 minutes later, another man walked down the same path. Investigators thought that these men might have been scouting Tom's movements. Tom, with police guidance, transferred bitcoins to the purported kidnappers in hopes of future communication. On November 10, they received a terrifying message: "Little time. Quick, or she is dead." Public interest in the case exploded. Two ladies even came forward, claiming to have seen Anne Elisabeth in the back of a red BMW X3 on the day she disappeared. One stated the woman mouthed, "Help me." Despite the overwhelming testimony, the police finally discounted the sighting as a dead end. Weeks later, Tom's lawyer received a new message from the kidnappers via an anonymous browser. It warned that things would get worse if Tom wasn't cooperative. This led to another ransom payment of €1.35 million in Monero, again with police participation. But this time, there was no reply. By June 2019, the investigation evolved substantially. Police indicated they now suspected Anne Elisabeth had likely been murdered. They highlighted a lack of continuing communication and the detection of organic material at the site. It was now considered that the kidnapping may have been staged. In April 2020, Tom Hagen was arrested and accused with murder as he departed for work. However, he was shortly released owing to insufficient evidence. Another man in his 30s was also arrested, but his identity was never revealed and he was eventually cleared. According to lead investigator Tommy Broska, the case reveals evidence of a well-planned fraud, with increasing suspicion falling on Tom. Investigators found that there had been no real kidnappers, no genuine negotiations, and that efforts were made to deceive the police from the beginning. During the investigation, witnesses came forward alleging Anne Elisabeth seemed disturbed before she disappeared. Some felt Tom had a role in her vanishing, possibly due to marital troubles. Tom and Anne Elisabeth's children have strenuously challenged this. Still, evidence mounted. Investigators found Tom's personal notes from 2016 contemplating the potential of divorce, which would have been financially disastrous for him. Tom himself downplayed these remarks, stating they were among thousands of pages in his journals and that divorce was simply one conceivable thought, not a plan. Reportedly, Anne Elisabeth had a brief affair back in 1993. Tom knew about it and had allegedly threatened the man she was associated with. Just 22 days before she disappeared, Anne Elisabeth attended a meeting when she broke down in tears, complaining about troubles in her marriage. Friends were astonished, characterizing her as generally reticent. A family computer used largely by Anne Elisabeth shows searches related to divorce from as far back as 2017. Separation papers were also located at the house, signed only by Anne. Lawyers then found that the couple's prenuptial agreement significantly favored Tom and might not have held up in court, potentially costing him hundreds of millions in a divorce. As of now, years later, Anne Elisabeth remains missing. Police are still aggressively investigating, holding out hope that they may track the money flow, despite Monero's privacy-focused architecture. While the cryptocurrency is famously tough to monitor, experts believe that big amounts of money always leave a trace if you know where to look. One remaining issue remains: what about the red BMW X3? Can the police truly be convinced it had nothing to do with Anne Elisabeth's disappearance? If you found this case as intriguing and chilling as we did, don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps us out. And if you want to stay updated on this case and more deep dives into true crime mysteries, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.